In the previous session, we have completed organizational controls. Anyone, any questions on that, or do we move forward? We'll start with people control today. Go through what we've discussed in the previous session. Ask me questions if you have some. Else we jump into A6 people controls right now.
Good afternoon, Bhuviji.
People, any questions for me from the organizational control segment?
All good, sir. Thank you.
Cool. So let's jump into people control A6. 6.1 screening. Background verification. Background verification checks for all candidates to become personnel shall be carried out prior to joining the organization and on an ongoing basis, taking into consideration applicable laws, regulations, and ethics, and be proportional to business requirements, the classification of information to be assessed, and the perceived risks. Very simplistic requirement. All employees will have to go through some sort of background verification. Nowhere is it mentioned that it has to be that the background verification has to be done by a third party. It is simply saying that background verification needs to be done. Background verification needs to be done for all candidates prior to joining and also on an ongoing basis, taking into consideration the applicable laws, etc. So dependent on what designations you've hired people for the roles that they've been hired, your background verification is a mandate from ISO 27001 standpoint. Yesterday, I was auditing Indus Valley Partners. In the last 1 year, in the last one calendar year, they had 242 new joiners. I took a sample of 24, and I verified the background verification reports for 24 people, and I found this to be compliant. Everyone with me so far?
Yeah, question. Is there any minimum criteria for the number of people, the new joiners, to be verified? Is it a percentage of the total number of employees who have joined, or any other criteria like 2%, 5% kind of,
So there are several ways in which this can be done. That sample size calculation has two considerations. One, is it daily control, weekly control, or several controls within a week, several within a day? So something like employee getting into and going out of the company, there could be several evidences. So in such cases, you could have a different sample size. Some controls where you have weekly, you could have different sample size. If it is a once in a while control, you could have a larger sample size. So you decide on the sample based on these considerations also.
So does it mean that, let's say if I have quarterly internal audits, okay, normally we do that. So during that time, do we need to take this into account, or is it okay if you are taking a half yearly or an annual audit, the internal auditing, the consolidated list?
Let's take one step behind. Let's say, let's look at something. Let's take 2, 3, 4 examples. I'm an organization. I'm an IT firm, and there is a background verification process. This ideally is once in a lifetime control, right? I will want this to be verified as high a percentage sample as possible. When I'm looking at user provisioning, deprovisioning, a 95% confidence interval is advisable. So you will have sample size calculators, which will be able to give you exact samples to be audited when you are looking at 95%. So it does not say anywhere. I'm not saying that you should do it monthly, weekly, or bi-yearly, whatever. I just want this coverage to ensure 95% confidence. So let's say as an organization, we have had 500 new people join in, and there have been 200 people who have tried it. Whenever you are verifying, ensure that new joiner sample size represents 95% of your confidence. So whatever answer you are drawing should have 95% confidence. With me?
Yes.
If I were to do a monthly audit, maybe this is a yearly number. So I may only have a 40 people per month joining. So I will audit this. If I'm doing a yearly number, I'm doing a 500. (6.2) Terms and conditions of employment. Employee contractual agreements shall state the personnel's and the organization's responsibility for information security. I am of the view that if you do not let people know what is expected of them, they will not be able to do it. So the best way of handling expectations is to ensure that terms and conditions of their employment, and for the vendors also, must be clearly articulated. So you must review this as auditor to see if everything is covered duly in the appointment and other terms and conditions document that the employee has been provided with. (6.3) Information security awareness, education and training. Personnel of the organization and relevant interested parties shall receive appropriate information security awareness, education and training, and regular updates on organization's information security policy, topic-specific policies and procedures as relevant to their job functions. Awareness training, job-specific information security training is a mandate from the standard standpoint. You will need to ensure that all employees and interested parties both receive this training and that they are assessed on a continued basis. What organizations generally tend to do, they will do the information security awareness, but relevant to job functions is often found missing. The organization I was auditing yesterday, they conduct awareness program for their employees. This is okay. But I'm saying I am HR. Did people from the HR team receive training that the background verification processes are to be conducted in a particular way? I will need evidence of this. For strengthening of the system, I will also require tests to be conducted and test scores to be available. So generally, what you will see is,
excuse
yes,
me.
please. Yeah.
So do you mean that for all the employees, irrespective of their experience, I mean, I work with a IT company. So does it mean that people at any level, a test has to be conducted?
If you look at clause number 7.2, it require competence is a requirement. Let's go to clause number 7.2 for a minute. If you look at 7.2, it is saying competence. Organization shall A, determine the necessary competence of person doing work under the control of its, etc., etc. So A requires you to have a detailed job description. B requires you to have a as-is assessment of your employee. C requires you to see what is the difference between A and B. And D requires you to have evidence of all this. So now that if there is a gap that has been found in the step C, how did you fill the gap? That evidence has to be provided. So whatever you've done, if you've provided for any training, if you've done any mentoring, it says evaluate the effectiveness of the actions taken. So if you've provided some training to an employee, how did you assess whether that employee is capable now? The effectiveness measurement is also mandatory. Does this answer your question?
Not really, but I'll put a scenario here. Okay, like a typical scenario. Okay, when a new employee joins or a set of employees are joining, it can be during, let's say, once a month, or because normally there will be a particular day of the week where, or 2 days in a week, they'll induct the employee. Okay, there could be a set of freshers, or there could be experienced people, but it could be one or two, who may be joining during that particular month or so. Okay, and as per the job description, the interviews are, the candidates are selected, the competency is looked into, and the person goes through he or she goes through the interview process, and the respective hiring manager, not from the HR side, but the technical or functional or any other managers, they would do an assessment, let's say first level, second level, or third level, whatever the level of interview you have, and after that, that particular candidate is evaluated, and let's say he's okayed, okay, and he is being brought on board. So at that time, what happens is that the respective hiring manager or managers send the evaluation report back to the recruitment team or to the head of HR. Not the head of HR, the respective HR, they'll send it across. Correct. Okay. So from the induction, after that, the employee joins and the induction process starts. Okay. So in the induction process, and normally what we do is that we give the information security training as a part of the entire the induction program. What we do is that we give the information security training, as well as if the particular person is on the fintech or working on UK clients, so the GDPR, or if it is US, if it's a healthcare, we give the HIPAA training and all. Okay, so that also encapsulates the information security aspects of it. Okay, at the end, what we do is that we send them a Google form, ask giving certain criteria, and get their opinion on that, in the sense their assessment. That we collate and put that into an Excel spreadsheet and use it for the internal assessment, as well as any areas of improvement, because people also will come with certain. Is that the right approach?
Several small observations. This information security training, the HIPAA training, etc., that you provided, looks like a generic training that you've given. What about the role-specific information security training? So let's say employees that have joined.
No. I am coming to that, because Just a second. I
Hmm.
did not miss that point. Okay. Because when the employee joins, what happens is the person is into a general pool. The person, I mean, initially there will be people from the technical side, there'll be people from the functional side, they all be joining. Okay. Then after the induction is completed, they are being moved to the respective technical department or functional or networking or whatever the case may be. So at that
Correct.
respective team, they give additional training over there in terms of information security, the ISMS, from the ISMS perspective.
There. So this information
Is that fair
security
enough?
training,
Is that
that is
fair enough?
enough.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you provided the initial training was to be considered as a generic training and evidence gathered for that, fantastic. Role specific information security team training given by the department leader, fantastic. Evidence of the training, evidence of the assessment has to be done. Some old school auditors like us will go to the extent of saying, even if your pass criteria is 80%, auditors will go and ask you, you still have 20% non-conformity. So your people don't know 20%. There's a firm that I audit called Calibrated Medical Systems here in Gurgaon. Our passing mark in the last 4 years have now evolved to 100% of ISMS scores, because we realize that less than that is not acceptable. So those controls will have to be put in place.
Okay, got it.
Information security awareness, education and training, personnel of the organization and relevant interested parties, very, very crucial. Interested parties also cannot be forgotten. Shall receive appropriate information security awareness, education and training, and regular updates. A common weakness that I found, job function specific information security training is sometimes found to be missing. So if you are an auditor or an implementation professional, you may want to consider this. 6.4, a disciplinary process shall be formalized and communicated to take action against personnel and other relevant interested parties who have committed an information security violation. My recommendation, disciplinary process should be part of your awareness workshops. From where I look at life, information security awareness should include 7.5, should include disciplinary process, should include roles and responsibility. Please read through 6.1 to 6.4. Ask me questions if you have some, then we proceed from here. Please consider 6.3 as very, very crucial in your design of information security. This could be a huge advantage or a disadvantage if done or not done in an organization. We are good people. We move ahead.
Okay, a question I have there.
Please.
Okay. In our organization, what I have implemented is annual refresher training for everyone. Okay. We collect evidence also for that. So in the meanwhile, what will happen is that, or what happens normally is, there have been internal movements of people. Let's say a functional guy says that I want to go to the technical side. Or sometimes from the technical side, the person says that I want to go to L1 support time.
Yep.
Support side. Okay. Again, we give a training. So don't we need to collect the evidence from that point also when an employee is transferred from one department to the other?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And also for the annual refresher training, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that we have already. Yep.
Because there is a
Thank you.
role change will necessitate another set of training.
Yeah, understand that. Okay, thanks.
6.5, responsibilities after termination or change of employment. Information security responsibilities and duties that remain valid after termination or change of employment shall be defined, enforced, and communicated to relevant personnel and other interested parties. So exit documents, how you are terminating a contract, how you are terminating an employment, the exit document should contain responsibilities for the people post the completion of their responsibilities. For instance, I've served General Electric for about 11 years. When I was about to leave, they got me to sign a lot of documents which necessarily mandated that I could not become part of 7 organizations. Those were either vendors or competitors for General Electric. That was part of my exit documentation. 6.6, confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements. Confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements reflecting the organization's need for protection of information shall be identified, documented, regularly reviewed, and signed by personnel and other relevant interested parties. Very simple requirement. Non-disclosures, whatever else, non-disclosure agreements. Some organizations get a secrecy invention agreement signed by employees. Depending on who you are, what your needs are, get this document signed. By all employees and interested parties.
Question. Can I
Please.
ask you a question?
Please.
Okay. If you are hiring a employee on contract on a contractual basis, let's say 3 months or 6 months, or renewable every 6 months, they'll also have to go through the same process, correct?
Yep.
And even for the internal movement also.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And especially with AI coming into play, you will also have to find out legal recourses. The agents that we are developing as an organization, it has to be our proprietary. That has to be rephrased. I read something yesterday, very disturbing. We got to be very careful about how NDAs have to be written in the age of generative AI.
Could you clarify that, please?
So I don't know if you guys understand. Generative is taking a very different dimension. Generative AI is taking a very different dimension of life, and we do not know. As let's say you are the legal practitioner there. So when I'm saying non-disclosures, I have developed a bot. I have developed a newer generative AI model. Output of this is still my property. But can you predict what it will do? I can't. So carefully worded NDAs will have to come about. You need AI practitioners, people who understand that side of life to be able to help you write better NDAs now.
Okay.
So Pranay sir, this is Rishi here. Just wanted to ask, do you think it's a general practice of signing this document, duly getting this signed when you make an offer?
After.
Document,
So
no, does
it is part of the joining kit. Ideally, it is part of the joining kit.
Correct. So does that suffice our need?
I'm not a legal expert, but I am of the view that from the limited understanding that I have is anything not done on a contract paper does not hold good. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to go back to some legal person to be able to understand whether non-disclosure agreements that we have signed on a white paper, does it hold any legal value or not, is something that we will need to explore. I'm not good at that.
It holds good, Pranay sir. It actually holds good because when the offer letter is given itself, we go ahead and we take we take a sign off from the employee stating that any sort of data that we hold of the client should not be given to anyone, and non-disclosure. And also, if a person is leaving also, we make sure that, like what you rightly said, they're not supposed to be going ahead and joining into certain companies. So when those companies will also be aware that somebody is coming from this company and we need not take them, and there should be a gap of 2 years or 3 years, because that becomes an agreement, like, for us, which will hold strong. So that
Fair.
is actually right, Rishi sir. What you asked is correct. NDAs has to be signed mandatory, and it will hold good legally.
So we have two sets here. Along with the offer that we make, we also have NDA document and the proprietary document, as in what are the rights of the company there. So
Correct.
just want to understand if we need a separate set
No, no.
to.
In the same kit, you can add.
Okay,
Don't call it a separate NDA document. Make it part of your offer acceptance document itself.
got it. Thank you. Thank you.
In my firm, we all have signed a secrecy and inventions agreement. All employees sign a secrecy and inventions agreement. We are saying whatever we are inventing is company's property,
Absolutely.
apart from NDA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, normally, since it's a product company, ours also same criteria. Since ours also a product company, even if a group of employees or a team or a set of employees develop certain, let's say, for example, uh, generative AI component, for certain aspects of the product, if that is successful and delivered, it will be a part of the product and part of the organization, and this team cannot take it outside. So we have put that into the contract clause in terms of the IP, because they are all a part of the organization's
Fair,
product IP.
fair, fair. 6.7 remote working. Security measures shall be implemented when personnel are working remotely to protect information assessed, processed, and stored outside the organizational premises. Mostly this will come when we are doing our technological controls. Information security, event reporting. The organization shall provide a mechanism for personnel to report observed or suspected information security events through appropriate channels in a timely manner. Organizations tend to publish a email ID or a phone number for reporting such instances. Big organizations have a very robust infrastructure around event reporting. Physical controls. Physical security perimeters. Security perimeters shall be defined and used to protect areas that contain information and other associated assets. As an auditor, you should ask for a map. We should mark all secure areas. Look at how access controls have been designed. What are the points in which non-validated entrants can come into a system? My customer yesterday, the company that I was auditing yesterday, like every organization, they also have a cafeteria. So the cafeteria, they will have some support staff coming. Food will be delivered. Beverages will come in. So how did these people come into the system? How have we secluded our secure areas from these people? All of that becomes a auditable element. With me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Physical entry. Secure areas shall be protected by appropriate entry controls and access points. Either the gates are manned or they are access controlled, whatever. Look at the maps, look at how these physical entries are controlled. Securing offices, rooms, and facilities. Physical security of offices and rooms and facilities shall be defined and implemented. Storage infrastructure, physical storage infrastructure is a vulnerability here. In the company that I was auditing yesterday, they had racks outside finance department because finance had a lot of files, and these files were stored in racks outside the rooms. These file cabinets were open. Vulnerability. Physical security monitoring. Premises shall be continuously monitored for unauthorized physical access, CCTV or whatever else you've done to be able to monitor unauthorized physical access. Protection against physical and environmental threats such as natural disasters and other intentional or unintentional physical threats to infrastructure shall be designed and implemented. Some of this is already legal requirement, so you must have had some building safety, building stability certificate, some fire control, so you will have some fire certificate. And then look at what other controls are you exhibiting for physical and environmental threats. Any legal specifics, Bhuvneshwari, that you can think of in this area?
I'll just think and let you know, sir.
Because in seismic zones, there has to be some control that the government must be exhibiting, that this is the kind of certification you have to take. Possible. Fire certificates, building stability certificates are mandates. But other than that, what else can we do?
Elevator certification for the lifts.
Why not? Why not? Elevator certifications can be done.
And I have one more question here. When you talked about this CCTV camera for the surveillance, how long? What's the normal standard? Okay, I don't say that 6 months or 1 year or 3 weeks, kind of, But as an industry standard, what is the duration we need to keep that backup? As well as for audit purpose, how much does the auditor ask
No
for?
mandates. No
There is no.
mandates.
Okay.
No mandate. There is a mandate in terms of what is the angle that you can have on your CCTV camera. What is the positioning that you have to have? Those are questions that will come about. Disclaimer obviously is a question. So if you have CCTV cameras installed, you will have to display that you are under CCTV monitoring.
Right,
and
right.
it has to be validated by your POSH leader once in a while. So those are a few generic practices that people follow.
Okay, thanks.
Vanessa, this may sound a little out of syllabus, but then SEZs normally don't have smoking zones. So do you think smoking zone in a company also comes under environmental threats or probably restricting?
So a lot of time now in my previous job where we were out to smoke, the diesel storage was pretty close by. So that could be a threat that you could see. Otherwise, you should carefully design such things. You got to realize that it is a reality that people will go out and smoke. Unless you put in provisions, you are inviting unnecessary trouble. You should look at these things.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
We can have one. Sorry, We can have one certificate for prevention of any injuries, or we have the ERM also certification during time of fire. Some control can be there in place. That can also be audited.
I am very rigid about fire safety. Very rigid. When I do audits, I am very rigid about what is the total time taken to uh, to take your run, what is the assembly time. I am very rigid about these things, but find out if there are some other legal controls that that could be put in.
Yes, sir.
Because I audit a lot of companies, and I think that the least we could do is make our vicinity a little safer. Making organizations more responsible will not hurt. 7.7, clear desk and clear screen. Clear desk rules for papers and removable storage media, and clear screen rules for information processing facilities shall be defined and appropriately enforced. So having screensavers, ensuring that system idle time for screensavers should be as little as possible, maybe 10 seconds, I don't know. All those questions. Desk should be clear, especially areas which are closer to your unmanned areas. So I see a lot of time that we would do very high level design discussions on whiteboards, and then the board will still have that information. Someone can click a picture and move away. So those basic hygiene elements should be educated. People should know why we've asked them to be careful. That's it. Don't be too rigid, but good practice to follow all of this. Equipment siting and protection. Equipment shall be sited securely and protected. Security of assets off premises. Your technology controls have to be put in place to ensure that laptops and devices that are going outside the organization are adequately protected. Storage media shall be managed through their life cycle of acquisition, use, transportation, and disposal in accordance with the organization's classification scheme and handling requirements. I'm sure if you design a decent classification scheme will talk about how are we looking at disposing them. So if a storage device is using confidential material, how do we intend to dispose that storage device is a very important question. And guidelines have to be in place and they have to be adhered to. Supporting utilities, information processing facilities shall be protected from power failures and other disruptions caused by failures in supporting utilities. I am pretty rigid on maintenance schedule and SOPs around this place, because your supporting utilities, your gensets, your inverters, your devices that you are using to be able to support you in difficult times, they must be taken care adequately, especially the ones that you put in place for your server rooms and things like that. They must have adequate maintenance and all of that to be able to live their role. So supporting utilities 7.11 could be a stupid failure point that we must consider. Cables carrying power, data, or supporting information systems, information services shall be protected from interception, interference, or damage. Again, when we talk about technological controls, we will think about cabling security. What is the transport layer systems that you are using? That could be available for some disruption is something that we should consider. Equipment maintenance. Equipment shall be maintained correctly to ensure availability, integrity, and confidentiality of information. Secure disposal and reuse of equipment. Items of equipment containing storage media shall be verified to ensure that sensitive data and licensed software has been removed or securely overwritten prior to disposal or reuse. Pretty much the same thing. Please go through the administrative controls, the physical controls. Ask me questions if you have some. Then we decide next steps. Fair, everyone? People, questions? Or are we good? Shubhi, Reena?
No question, sir.
Cool.
No question, sir.